There is a mirror in his bathroom he has started avoiding, not on purpose, not with any dramatic decision behind it. He just found himself looking somewhere else while he shaves, at the faucet, at the tile, at nothing in particular, anywhere but his own eyes. He would not call it avoidance if you asked him. He would call it being in a hurry. He would call it not having time to stand there and stare at himself like some man having a crisis. But he knows somewhere underneath the explanation that there is a specific reason he stopped looking. There is a version of himself waiting behind his own eyes that he has not been ready to meet. He still gets everything done. He still shows up, still delivers, still says the right things to the people who depend on him. From the outside, nothing looks broken. That is exactly the problem. A man can keep every external promise and still be quietly failing the one person he never has to answer to out loud, himself. He knows what discipline requires. He knows what responsibility looks like. And most days he still finds himself negotiating quietly for the smaller, easier version of who he is supposed to be. This is not a video that is going to motivate him. It is not going to hand him 5 habits, a morning routine, or a pep talk designed to make him feel better for 20 minutes before the feeling wears off. This video has one job: to make him look directly and without flinching at the exact thing he has been avoiding every time he looks away from that mirror. Not his failures, not his flaws. The specific version of himself he stopped facing a long time ago, the one who held a standard he quietly let go of. By the end, nothing will be handed to him, no rescue, no shortcut. What he will get instead is clarity about what he has been running from, and the beginning of the only kind of respect that actually holds, the kind a man builds by standing still in front of the truth instead of shaving past it. That version of him did not vanish when he stopped looking for it. It has been running things from somewhere underneath the surface, longer than he would like to admit, and it is more visible than he thinks, if he knows exactly where to look. He would swear, if you pushed him, that nothing specific is wrong. No diagnosis, no single event, no story he could point to and say, that is where it started. Just a low, constant hum of not being who he used to respect, and no clear reason why. That is the first lie this enemy tells. It convinces a man there is no enemy at all, only vague tiredness, only a phase, only stress that will pass once things calm down. Things rarely calm down, and the hum does not go away, it just gets better at hiding. Watch where his hand goes first thing in the morning, before his feet even hit the floor. Not toward a plan, not toward the day, toward the phone, toward the scroll, toward 30 seconds that becomes 20 minutes of information he will not remember by lunch. That is not entertainment. That is anesthesia administered in small, socially acceptable doses to avoid feeling the exact thing waiting for him the moment his mind goes quiet. Watch who he has slowly stopped calling. Not out of conflict, nothing that dramatic. Just distance, a little more each month, from the people who knew him before, the ones who remember the version of him that kept his word, showed up early, finished what he started. Those people are not annoying to him. They are inconvenient because being around them means being measured against a standard he quietly stopped meeting, and no one enjoys standing next to the ruler that proves how far they have drifted. Listen to how he talks about himself before anyone else gets the chance. The joke about being lazy, said first, said lightly, so it lands soft instead of sharp. The comment about not being that disciplined guy anymore, delivered with a shrug, as if it were just information, not a verdict he passed on himself when no one was looking. This is not humility. Humility does not need to strike first. This is a man disarming the criticism before it can be aimed at him by someone else, because he has already aimed it at himself 1,000 times in private. Watch how full he keeps his schedule, how quickly he fills any open hour with something that looks productive, another task, another commitment, another thing that needs him right now. Busy feels like virtue. It is not always virtue. Sometimes it is the most respectable form of running there is, because no one questions a man who is too busy to sit still, and sitting still is exactly what would force him to notice what he has been avoiding. None of these are the problem. They are symptoms, fingerprints left behind by something that has been operating underneath his daily decisions for longer than he realizes, something that does not announce itself, does not ask permission, and has gotten very good at looking like normal behavior. It has a name, it has a mechanism, and in a few minutes, he is going to understand exactly why ignoring it has only made it stronger. Carl Jung spent decades circling one uncomfortable idea, and it explains almost everything happening underneath the surface of this man's life. He called it the shadow, the parts of a person that got exiled from view, usually somewhere in childhood or in the aftermath of a specific failure, because keeping them in view was too costly at the time. A boy learns fast which parts of himself get approval and which parts get punished, ignored, or mocked. He does not consciously choose to bury the second group. He just learns, quickly and quietly, to stop looking at them. And a habit formed at 7 does not politely retire at 35. It goes underground and keeps working. Here's the part most men get backwards. They assume the shadow stays buried because it is weak, small, defeated, no longer relevant. Jung's argument runs the opposite direction entirely. What gets exiled does not get smaller from being denied. It gets stronger, precisely because no one is managing it consciously anymore. A drive that would have been mild and workable in the light becomes distorted and demanding in the dark, the way anything left alone in a locked room eventually starts pounding on the door. This is why every fingerprint from a few minutes ago makes sudden sense. The scroll at 6 in the morning is not a bad habit floating in isolation. It is the exiled self demanding numbness instead of confrontation, and getting it every single day without resistance. The quiet withdrawal from old friends is not simple busyness. It is a defense system, protecting the exile from being seen by anyone who remembers who used to guard that door. The joke about being lazy, said first and lightly, is not humor. It is the exiled self negotiating the terms of its own punishment before anyone else gets the chance to name it. Here is the mechanism stated plainly, the part most self-help content gets exactly backwards. He does not avoid the mirror because something inside him is already sabotaging his life. The avoidance is the fuel. Every morning he looks away is another small vote cast for keeping that version of himself in exile, another day of feeding a system that runs entirely on being unexamined. It is not that he is broken and therefore avoids the mirror. He avoids the mirror, and that is precisely what keeps him behaving like something broken. Think of a business partner locked out of every meeting for years, still legally entitled to a say in how the company runs. He does not quietly accept irrelevance. He starts finding backdoor ways to make his presence felt, sabotaging deals he was never consulted on, undermining decisions made without him, not out of malice exactly, but because exclusion breeds exactly the kind of behavior that gets someone excluded in the first place. The exiled self operates on the same logic. It is not trying to destroy him. It is trying to get back into the room. This is not a metaphor built for a nice sentence. It is closer to a law. What is not made conscious does not disappear. It operates, and the man experiences that operation as bad luck, low motivation, a personality flaw, when it is neither luck nor flaw. It is an unmanaged part of himself, still running on the instructions it was given the day it got sent underground, with no update since. There is only one way this changes, and it is not the one most men expect. Not more willpower thrown at the symptoms. Not another attempt to out-discipline a problem that was never about discipline in the first place. The shift starts the moment he stops treating that exiled version as an enemy to defeat, and starts treating it as a part of himself, waiting, this entire time, to be found. Forget the version of this video where he ends up transformed into someone unrecognizable, calmer, colder, more polished, a stranger wearing his face. That story sells easily because it promises an exit. Become someone else. And the man who let himself down simply stops existing, no confrontation required. It is also a lie, and a costly one, because it sends him looking in exactly the wrong direction for the rest of his life, chasing a new identity instead of doing the only thing that actually works. Every self-improvement video that promises a new version of him is really selling amnesia with better lighting. It feels good for exactly as long as the video lasts, because it lets him imagine a life where the moment he is ashamed of simply gets edited out, replaced by a stronger, cleaner story. Real change has never worked that way, not for him, not for anyone. The moment does not edit out, it waits. And every man who has tried to outrun it eventually finds it standing exactly where he left it, patient, unchanged, still running the show from underneath. He does not need a new identity. He needs the old one back, the specific version of himself he exiled. and the only way back to it runs directly through the moment he has spent years avoiding. Here is what facing it actually looks like, stripped of drama, not a breakdown, not a dramatic confession to someone else. A private, deliberate act of standing in front of what happened and naming it plainly in his own mind, without the flinch, without the immediate scramble to explain it away or attack himself for it. That day I chose comfort over what I knew was right. That is the whole sentence. No excuse tacked on the end. No self-punishment tacked on either. Just the fact, looked at directly, for the first time since it happened. Picture him back in front of that same bathroom mirror, the one he has been avoiding for longer than he would admit. This time he does not look away. He looks directly into his own eyes and holds it, past the point where it feels comfortable, past the point where the old reflex tells him to reach for his phone or find something urgent that needs his attention instead. Nothing dramatic happens. No music swells. He simply stands there, sees the exact man who let himself down, and for the first time and longer than he can remember, does not look away from him. He has avoided this because some part of him believed that facing it would confirm the worst, that looking directly at that moment would prove he really is the man who failed, permanently, completely. This is exactly backwards. Avoidance is what confirms it. Every year spent looking away is another year that moment gets to run things unmanaged, unchallenged, still operating exactly as it did the day it happened. Facing it does not confirm the failure. It is the only act that actually ends its authority. Viktor Frankl spent years in circumstances designed to strip a man of every possible meaning, and what he came back with was not a technique for avoiding suffering. It was the observation that a man is not destroyed by what happens to him, he is destroyed by refusing to decide what it means. The exiled moment does not have to mean he is a failure. It can mean he is a man who once made a choice he was not proud of, and became the kind of man who can look directly at that choice without needing to hide from it. That meaning is available to him right now. He has simply never stood still long enough to choose it. This is the turn, stated plainly. Respect does not return because life gets easier, or because enough time passes, or because he feels ready. It returns the moment he stops running from the exiled version of himself and lets it back into the room, not to punish it, not to interrogate it, to retrain it the way any capable leader retrains someone who has been operating without guidance for too long. He is not at war with himself. He has simply been managing himself badly, and management can change. That single act does not fix everything, but it is the only door in, and once he is willing to walk through it, there is real, specific work waiting on the other side. Not vague encouragement, but an actual code for how a man rebuilds what he let go. Everything up to this point has been diagnosis. Understanding the mechanism is necessary, but understanding alone has never rebuilt a single ounce of self-respect. Diagnosis without practice is just a more sophisticated way of staying stuck, dressed up in psychological language instead of excuses. What follows are 4 working principles, not motivational suggestions, the actual code for reintegrating the version of himself he exiled. The first principle is naming without punishment. He already knows what the moment is, whether it is one specific failure or a pattern repeated so many times, it stopped feeling like a choice. The discipline here is stating it in one plain sentence, out loud or on paper, without a single word of self-attack attached to it. This is harder than it sounds, because self-attack feels productive. It feels like accountability. It is not. Attacking himself is a performance, a way of appearing to take responsibility while actually avoiding the quieter, less dramatic work of simply changing what he does next. A man who spends his energy calling himself weak rarely has energy left over to act differently. Name it. Do not perform grief over it. Move. In practice, this might sound like, I told her I would be there and I did not show up, and I let that become a pattern instead of a mistake. Said once, clearly, and then closed. Not reopened 3 more times that night while lying in bed. Not revisited every time he feels a flicker of shame. Closed, the way a good report gets filed once it is complete. Not rewritten, daily, out of anxiety. The second principle is refusing to wait for forgiveness before acting like a man he respects. This is where most men get stuck for years without realizing it. Some part of him is waiting to feel like he has suffered enough, apologized enough, proven enough remorse, before he allows himself to act with any confidence again. as if self-respect is a reward handed out only after sufficient punishment. It does not work that direction. Respect is not the prize at the end of penance. It is built the moment he starts behaving like the man he wants to be, penance or no penance, forgiveness or no forgiveness. Waiting to feel worthy before acting worthy is just one more sophisticated form of the avoidance already covered. The third principle is proof over declaration. He has likely already announced a version of this change before, to himself, maybe to someone else. A decision to be more disciplined, more present, more the man he used to be, starting Monday, starting the new year, starting now. Declarations do not work anymore, and it is worth being honest about why. He has broken enough promises to himself that his own word has stopped meaning much to the part of him that is listening. What rebuilds trust is not a bigger, more sincere announcement. It is small, specific, repeated proof, the same unglamorous action done daily until it stops being a decision and starts being who he is. It does not need to be dramatic to count. Getting up at the same time every day for 2 weeks counts. Answering one message he has been avoiding counts. Showing up early to the one commitment he has been consistently late to counts. None of these make a highlight reel. All of them are votes cast for the man he is rebuilding, and votes accumulate whether anyone is watching or not. The fourth principle is protecting what he has just reclaimed, because the exiled self does not disappear the moment it gets faced once. It will come looking for the door again, usually on the exact days he is most tired, most stressed, most justified in wanting relief instead of standards. This is where most men lose the ground they just gained, not through one dramatic collapse, but through a quiet, reasonable-sounding negotiation that shows up disguised as self-care or common sense. The defense is not more willpower in the moment, it is recognition. The instant he notices the negotiation starting, the just this once, the it does not matter today, he names it out loud, exactly as he named the original moment. Not as an attack on himself, simply as information. That is the negotiation. I see it, I am not signing. 4 principles, none of them complicated, none of them requiring a personality transplant. Name it without punishment. Stop waiting for forgiveness before acting. Build proof instead of making declarations. Recognize the negotiation the instant it starts. This is not a system for becoming someone new. It is the maintenance a man performs on the identity he already has, the one that was never actually gone, only unmanaged. That is the code. What remains is not another principle to apply, but the actual moment this entire video has been building toward, the one where all of this stops being theory and becomes the way he closes today. Somewhere around 1800 years ago, a man who ran an empire kept a private journal that was never meant for anyone else to read. What became known as Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 2, Paragraph 1, and every passage that followed, was not written to inspire future readers. He wrote it at night, alone, correcting himself, naming exactly where he had failed that day and what he intended to do about it tomorrow, with no audience, no performance, nothing to prove to anyone watching because no one was. He was not performing wisdom for history. He was doing maintenance, one entry at a time, exactly like the 4 principles just covered, no audience required, no announcement necessary, just the private, repeated work of staying honest with himself. Which brings this back to where it started. He is standing in front of that same bathroom mirror again, weeks or months from the day this video found him. Some mornings the old reflex still shows up, the urge to look at the faucet, the tile, anywhere but his own eyes. Some mornings will be harder than others. That was never going to change. And it was never the goal. The goal was never a permanent state of ease. It was a man who, even on the hard mornings, still chooses to look. Something else is different this time, though he could not explain it if you asked. The reflection does not feel like it is watching him anymore, waiting, colder and straighter than he is. It simply matches. Same posture, same tired eyes, same man, no longer split into the one performing competence and the one hiding in exile underneath it. Whole, not because every problem is solved, but because nothing about him is being hidden from himself anymore. He sees the man who once let himself down, the one he exiled for longer than he should have, and he does not flinch, and he does not perform forgiveness, he does not yet feel, and he does not need to. He simply stays. That is the whole practice. Staying, one morning at a time, until staying stops requiring effort and starts being who he is. No one is coming to do this part for him. No one ever was. This was never a rescue story, and it was never supposed to be. No coach, no program, no video, including this one, was ever going to do the actual work of reintegration for him. That was always going to be his to carry, alone, in front of his own mirror, on his own mornings. He was never weak. He was never broken beyond use. He was a man who stopped managing one part of himself for a while, and management can always resume. None of this required him to become a stranger to himself. It required the opposite, becoming familiar again with a man he had quietly stopped visiting. The version of him he stopped respecting is still trainable. He is still his. He is still worth the war it takes to bring him back. That is how a man becomes someone he respects again. Not by becoming someone new, by finally standing still in front of who he already is. So do this now. In the comments, write the single promise you are making tonight, the one specific, unglamorous action that counts as day one. Not your dreams, not your whole new identity. One small proof, the kind this video already told you actually rebuilds trust. Put somewhere you will see it tomorrow morning. Then come back in 14 days and tell me what moved. If this struck something true in you, subscribe and turn on the bell, because the man you exiled is not brought back in a single night. He comes back the same way. Trust is always rebuilt with anyone. One kept word, then another, until the man in the mirror believes you again, and the war it takes to bring him back starts paying off.